that and come up with all sorts of interesting results. I don't know.
Data metrics.
So what we can do here is we have now the opportunity to do things with this file. So if I wanted to share it with Blake, I can go ahead and click on that little icon right there, come down, and this is like two little people, and I'm going to search for users, and I'll say, Blake, what's your username?
bjoyce3.
Or you could just look for
G.B. Joyce, University of Tennessee. I'm going to give you only read permission, sorry. And hit done. Now what I want you to do for this magic trick, nothing up my sleeve, I want you to go to the shared with me and see if you see now a directory called eLions, and then inside there temp2, and then inside there that photo.
This says error.
This is error.
just so
The suspense was getting too much, so. Yeah, temp2. There we go. And now it's time for photo processing.
And just like that, we have magically transferred information from this computer to that computer. So that's sort of cool. But let's say you actually had some like large sets of data that you needed to share. This is where this becomes handy. So when it comes to having 32 gigs, 100 gigs, or more of data, you often don't want to have multiple copies. And this is a great way for you to have it in your data store where you stage it. Then you can go ahead and share it with a collaborator, and now they have access to read it and process it with any of the applications that can be connected to the data store. Sometimes though you have a collaborator or you need to post a link that just gives people access to some file. So when it comes to my talk, let's say I have already forgotten your name on the very end. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Edith.
Eden, like
Eden,
yeah.
like the garden. Eden says, you know, can I borrow some of your slides? There are some pieces in there that I actually want to use. I think there's some merit to some of the things that you were talking about. And I said, absolutely no problem. Let me go ahead and generate for you a quick share link. And she doesn't necessarily have a DataStore account or anything like that. So what you can do is if you have a file that you want to share, so here's the Bio 5 iPlant talk. I can open it up a little bit. I uploaded it for the earlier session. What I can do is I can generate a quick share link. So all I need to do is click on this little icon right there, link with the plus, and what it will do is it will generate a unique URL that I then can email to somebody. They then can use this URL, and if they click on it, it'll start automatically downloading the file for them. Fast, simple way to share data, but what is wrong with this way of sharing data?
Direct download to your hard drive.
Well, direct download, I don't trust you necessarily. You can contaminate my data. But as Nicole is, what was that, Nicole?
It's not secure.
It is not secure. So for a talk, hey, no big deal. But what if I happen to have some preliminary data that I'm working up frantically that I don't want my evil competitor, Laura, to have? Is it Laurel or Laura? What am I blanking right now?
Laurel.
Laurel. It's late in the day for
That's
me, so
okay.
sorry.
Lots of people get that wrong.
Because although we're very cordial right now, we do battle every day over science. And I am afraid that once again Laurel will beat me to that awesome publication, as she always does. But I send my data over to Hagen. Hagen doesn't dawn on me, works in the same group but next door to Laurel. She's like, you know what? Eric, that jerk, he just picks on me. I'm going to share his slides. I'm going to send Laurel the link, even if they're in a different country. She gets the link and downloads the data, completely insecure. But you do have the opportunity, of course, to delete these links. And in the future, we do have the underlying technology in iRods, where we can control the number of times these are used, the length of time they're used, but we don't have that exposed to the discovery environment.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So if you share data with somebody, do you have to leave the file structure all the same? Or if you
actually take it and move it to
if you
a new
were
location?
like put things into a new folder or something, would it still be shared or no?
The file itself should be, because well,
Yeah, so like the actual way the operating system works, I mean like, sorry, the file system works for this is like all the where files are stored are being stored in a relational database of some sort. And then the relative location is just sort of like updating the data within that table for that particular file.
Mm-hmm.
The link to that file, therefore, should keep working because I assume that the unique ID is the same. Whether or not that is true, I do not know, and I've never tried that.
I
Figure that out. If you move your photo, I'll see if I still have access.
Yeah, you know what, and
Well, no, I
actually,
haven't given you a quick share link.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, that was
the quick,
it, right?
yeah, the quick share
Well-
link will continue to
Oh, are
work.
you talking about the quick share link? Or you're talking about the?
But
Actually,
if
both.
you're-
I was just wondering about.
But if you're doing
Yeah.
it within the
Yeah.
data structure, I've actually done this, or I've had somebody do this
Yeah.
to me, and it really kind of ticked me off. It is remembering the path. So
Okay.
if you move it,
So you can't reorganize anything.
if you have a high-level data directory structure that you give
So I just
people
moved it into
access
temp,
to,
which
and
you
you're
don't have access
reorganized
to.
within that high-level data directory structure,
Maybe
yeah,
fresh.
you can do whatever
So-
the heck you want, as long as they have access
Excuse
to
me.
that root directory.
Okay.
So one of the ways that iPlant, as you check this out, I would be curious to know if you automatically have access. Hit the refresh button to update your directory tree. But the way iPlant's permission system works is it's highly restrictive. So we control permissions on directories, we control permissions on files. So when I do that share within the discovery environment, what's happening behind the scenes is a rule, which is where the R comes from in iRods, gets triggered that basically says, go ahead and open up this file's ability to be read by this person, and the directory in which the file, and the directory of the directory, and so on and so forth, so that that all becomes visible through the discovery environment. There is definitely ways that you can get access to that file if you know the path, but you may never see the path because you don't have permission to actually see that directory there.
Search folders, yeah.
And this is due to how the ACLs, the access control list of these files are there. So if you knew where that file was, you still have permission probably to read that file. And I'm going to double check to make sure that that is true. So if I go into temp, which will be full of all sorts of secret stuff. Just know, there's that photo. So if I go ahead and take a look at the photo, is there a way within here? Oh, I've seen this in the past, where I can get information about that.
About the file itself?
Edit metadata, move, edit comments, edit file. Does it give me a list of who has access to it from inside here?
Yeah, you can click on the little people again. And there you go.
Yeah, so you still have access to it. So this is a case where you have access to the file, but you probably don't have access to the directory. But you still can get access to the file if you know about the directory.
It
But you have
shows
to do
up
it
as
from-
temp.
Oh,
but I
does
don't
show
have
up?
access to anything else in the file. just-
Oh, okay,
just the
perfect.
one.
So it gave you, perfect. Okay, then I take all that back.
But if you would move temp to out, well, I guess it should still work.
I'm not gonna mess up my computer.
Don't mess with your computer. But I'm gonna play with
I
that
mean, my
later.
DataStore.
You realize I'm gonna play with that later on today, thanks.
No, don't go find edge cases. It just keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of like the quick overview of some of the cool features that you can do within the data store. And if you want to, you can go ahead and you can select all these things. You can share them, you can bulk download them, you can move these things all at once. So it's a great way for you to shuffle stuff back and forth, share it. And for me, I really like it for the quick share links. It's one of the most popular things that I do for distributed talks.
So another thing I want to point out, we do have something called community data here, and this is sort of the beginnings of that. I mentioned the data commons in the beginning of my talk. This is kind of the beginnings of the data commons. The metadata that we're hoping to provide isn't necessarily here yet because all of this was actually uploaded since the beginning of time, but these are a number of different groups who actually have requested a shared directory that they then made public. So when you look at the 1KP pilot data, unfortunately, metadata isn't necessarily great, but you can take a look at the taxa, and that's going to show you all of the organisms that they actually went ahead and did the sequencing for. So if you click on that, eventually it'll load. There we go. So these are the different organisms that they worked with, and all of the assemblies, and there's other information that's stored in there that you can look at it that way. The goal would be for you to be able to actually go ahead and just search for information that you're interested in finding and actually be able to just more easily find that. You might be able to do that in the search box, we haven't really looked at it yet. So there's not a whole lot of good information here. There's a whole bunch of stuff, amino acid sequences, but this information is accessible. The other place I want to show you, can you go to mirror? .iPlant. So, if you have friends who do not have an iPlant collaborative account, I don't know why they wouldn't, but if for some reason they would want to look at some data, this is actually publicly accessible data. We do have a website that you can go to and actually access this data and visualize it. Some of it is better than others. For example, the 1KP pilot data should be showing up here. There we go. And it's the same directory structure as what's in our community data. So you should be able to also get the same information from here as you can within the discovery environment, just letting you know that it actually does exist. So this is at mirrors.iplantcollaborative.org. And so there's lots of files and things that can be found here that people have decided they want to make publicly accessible. And this is actually, I think, also referred to in, yeah, it's not real good, but
it's a note tree.
It'll get better. There are actually some files here that are pretty cool that show up. There's, I think, from the sequence read archive or the short read archive, there were some files that actually show up structured in a certain way. So there are cool things that we're trying to do with this view for folks. But this does exist as well.
So we are running down to the last little bit. For those of you that are really interested in the DataStore, which you all should be, it is by far and away one of my favorite technologies that iPlant has to offer. But I do love all of iPlant's technology. I do want to show you how to get information about how to connect with the DataStore. So especially if you're interested in using the command line. We are going to offer a second workshop where it's just going to be on the DataStore, and we'll dive into it in a little bit more detail. But if you're interested, if you're ever in the future you want to know how to connect to it, just ask Google all your questions. DataStore, iPlant. And I personally like this quick start guide, which is probably why it's a little higher up on my list. And what this does is it gives you just a quick overview of everything you need to know about connecting to the iPlant DataStore. Important is this information right here. And I repeat, it's important information. What this does is it describes to you everything you need to know for connecting to it from the command line or for any tool that requires configuration. Server host, the port number 1247. This is important because if, depending on the network you are on, you may or may not have access to that port. How many of you guys are logged into UA Wi-Fi versus UA public? Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi? Public Wi-Fi? You sure it's Wi-Fi, not public? Good. Mine always defaults to public. If you're on the public network, this is blocked. But the zone, so on and so forth. The other thing about this is as you scroll down through the list, it gives you information for some videos, how to use the I commands. Gives you an overview of the different technologies that you have available. So the I commands, the advantages, has a lot of power tools. Disadvantages, it's called command line. Some people consider this an advantage. Goes back and forth on that front. Fuse mount, which currently is deactivated, this is slow. And then gives you additional information in terms of how to connect to it. So information for how to connect with iDrop. So quickly, if you have downloaded iDrop, let's go ahead and fire up iDrop. And you can use that now as a quick example of some higher performance ways to go ahead and access the DataStore. So I've already installed it, I believe.
Should be under your application.
So this version that you've downloaded from iPlant will have the server and port already configured for you. And then what it will do is it will just ask you for your username and password. Some of the older versions or possibly newer versions that haven't been customized to iPlant will also ask you for that server, which is data.iplantcollaborative.org, as well as that port number for how to connect to the iPlant data server. But what's nice, just use your iPlant credentials. And so this is the view of having these two directory trees. The one on your left is your local, the one on your right is your data store. They used to be labeled local and remote, but that's
They
fine.
will be in the new markers.
So it drops me to root of my local computer, so I'm going to go to home, users, Elians, and then I have access to all my goods. I can go ahead and go into my documents. I can take a look at, oh no, see I have all my stuff in Dropbox. Go to my downloads.
Best pinball. Let's see the best pinball.
Best pinball? Where's my best pinball?
I see it right there in your downloads. 20. There you go. Best pinball.
Best pinball backglass. Perfect. So if people don't know, I find pinball machines to be the pinnacle of human-computer interactions, and it is a cornerstone of my research. If you can give and present to me any kind of computational device that allows such incredible feedback through only 2 buttons, I want to know more about it. Because my passion in life is figuring out how we can represent all of our computational devices with such a minimal, simplistic, and I would almost say perfect input for how to make these things work. And with that, I'm going to transfer over the best pinball backglass into my temp directory. Hit yes, and almost instantaneously, 200 kilobytes of data has moved from my laptop over to the data store. And I'm not going to open that for fear of what it might be. So with that, do you guys have any questions? Okay, so I do recommend take a look at the stuff that's coming up in terms of the tools and services iPlant has to offer. There's many different technologies, and they are taught by a diversity of people that know something about those. So Nicole gave a great overview in terms of all the things that we have available. And this is trying to give you a taste of the iPlant data store. Because ultimately, when it comes to being good stewards of data, the data store is the best place to start. And once you are using that in a way that might help you more easily manage your data, then you have the opportunity to maybe branch into some of the other technologies if you find them helpful. I do want to emphasize that at any point, if you do need help, feel free to contact either one of us. We are upstairs. Nicole's email address is nicole@iplantcollaborative.org. My email address, if you email Nicole, she'll get in touch with me. Far and away, the easiest way to do. We do have the forums. Do you guys remember the web address for the forums? You only saw it 4 times. Test of your short-term memory. Ask.iPlant.org. Perfect. Great place to post your questions. We do have a variety of people that may or may not be monitoring it, but we do try to at least get your answers forwarded to the right person pretty quickly. And always feel free to come upstairs and harass us. Fortunately, I'm hidden, except for Blake knows where I live, so if you find Blake, you know where to find me.
Good luck with that.
Do you guys have any questions? So I think the next workshops that we have are, is it
September 29th.
the 29th, and that's the discovery environment? It's the
Straight up data store.
Straight up data store.
So if you want to come to that, skip the first part of it, because we're just going to basically, I'll give the similar kind of talk as a way to sort of introduce the ideas of why data is important. Try to keep you guys interested as we move through these kinds of technologies. But you may want to show up for the second half, because what we will do with some of the time is to dive into the command lines, downloading, trying to install the iCommand, and just teaching people how to play with those. For the most part, if you're familiar with the command line, it's pretty easy to pick up and use. Look at a quick start guide, do a search for iPlant iCommands, and there's a great little paragraph that says, here's the most commonly used options. And I'm looking at you because I figure you're already playing with this. Yeah. These are the most commonly used options for doing recursion, batch processing, checkpointing, renewing your socket connections, and deal with all the, and displaying additional information to deal with all the problems of moving large sets of data. So with that, come talk to us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Let our bosses know if we're doing a good job.